Hi, everyone. I'm Thane Rosenbaum. I'm the creative director of the Forum on Life, Culture, and Society at Touro University, and coming to you live from our FOLCS studio. Welcome to our FOLCS Conversation series. Tonight, a super special night, the 60th anniversary and celebration of the film version of The Sound of Music, iconic film from 1965. Yes, it is 60 years ago. It is a movie that is so not just legendary, but it does nothing but just make people happy. There's very few films that you can say that about. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, yes, it's true. I was once in kindergarten, and in addition to finger painting, I think pretty much all we did was sing the 5 or 6 key songs from The Sound of Music. And I have such really happy memories of this because it really is so much part of my childhood, and so many others can clearly identify with that. This is a film, I remind you, that won 5 Oscars, including one for Best Picture. It has been inducted into what's called the National Registry of the Library of Congress, which means that it is a cultural monument for the United States. Not many movies get in that, and this essentially sends a message. This is one of our most important cultural achievements. And I think it's the most financially successful film adaptation of a Broadway play ever. I could be wrong, but someone may know the true answer to that. But I read that in a few places and I went, really? That too is an impressive monument. We have 3 super special guests. First, we have Kristina von Trapp. She is there she is. Hey, Kristina. She is, yes, related to the family von Trapp. She is the granddaughter of Georg and Maria. She is the daughter of the youngest of the von Trapp children, Johannes, and we'll talk more about the family members. Not surprising about Kristina, she knows a little something about mountains. She can climb them and ski down them and cross-country them. She is not only a pro at that as an instructor, but she runs the von Trapp family lodge and resort in Stowe, Vermont, and we're going to see some footage from that as well. Also with us tonight, we have Oscar Andy Hammerstein III. There he is. That's Andy. It's his nickname, but his real name is Oscar Hammerstein III, which means that his namesake is his grandfather, Oscar Hammerstein II, who was the lyricist for the Broadway and the film version. And in fact, with his partner, Richard Rodgers, who wrote, the composer, wrote many iconic films that we're going to talk about today. Oscar, knowing that his name is synonymous with musical theater, is a part of the family legacy. He is, in fact, a musical theater historian as a teacher and as an author, and he even teaches libretto writing. So welcome, Andy. And our last guest is Angela Cartwright, who in the movie played Brigitta, and I'm not mistaken, she was perhaps the 3rd youngest, am I right? 3rd or 4th youngest. Mm-hmm. She's also the one in a very cute way says to Maria, I think she says, hey, you're smart, which was like, among others. I always thought that was a great little moment. Some of you may remember Angela, I certainly do. She was on the Danny Thomas sitcom show in the 1950s and 60s, and better yet, much better yet, she played Penny Robinson in Lost in Space. Who can forget Penny Robinson? She's now an artist and a photographer, and she's a jewelry maker. We're going to see some of that as well. So welcome all of you for this very special night. So awesome to have you here. Let me start with the general question, and then we'll talk about some of the mementos that you brought us. What is it that you each think is so unique, special about the film that makes it so endearing to millions around the world and enduring? It just seems to have legs and is always immensely popular. What is it? You've done other things, you've seen other things. Andy, in your case, your grandfather has written other things. And the Von Trapp family has done other things. They've had an entire life outside of Austria. What is it about this film that you think makes it so singular?
In a way, I think of it sometimes as if it was a swan song to the kind of music that would follow it. It marked an end of an era, in fact. The show came out in 1965, and by 1963, the Beatles had landed. So in a way, it was a fitting testament to the
Wow.
golden age of musicals. But I don't really think
I
it
have
was ever
something to
really
add
the
to that
same.
we're going to talk about later. But that's a great entry point for me. I'm so happy you set that up because I think that there's something about the 1960s itself that's interesting because the film is really about liberation and autonomy. And guess what?
Yes.
The 1960s, that's what about. So we'll get to that. Great way to set me
I
up.
would add that it resonates for women to see a woman of agency in a movie like that, because most of the time these shows are just like pursuing the female lead.
Yeah,
In this
that's so
case, it's
great.
more about empowerment.
Yeah.
And that's
Either of you have anything else you might add to that? We can move on if you don't.
Yeah, no, I would say I think okay, so full disclosure, I grew up without a television, so I didn't see the movie until I was maybe around 10. And it was hard for me to reconcile the movie with my lived experience with my cousins and my aunts and uncles. But I see the movie as really about it's a love story of love of children, adult love, love of country, and hope and resiliency, and that change isn't terrible, and good things can come to fruition, even if your whole world is uprooted.
Cool.
And unfortunately, those things are still happening these days.
Yep.
Again, I also go back to the music and lyrics are fabulous, and
Yeah.
that really connects with everybody.
Angela, you sang those music and lyrics.
Yes, I did. And they're beautiful, and they're still sung today. I mean, it's hard to find a kid that hasn't been one of the Von Trapps in a play that they were cool. My daughter was Maria, and my son was not only Kurt, but the captain also. Years later. I think it also has
Wait, hold on one second. And I bet you they didn't accept any of your stage directions.
all I did when my daughter was Maria was cry through the whole thing. It was so emotional.
I'm sure.
She's in her 40s now. I mean, this was several years ago. But I think also what I find when I talk to people, it's about family. And when they went to the theater and those velvet curtains parted, it was an experience. And
Yeah.
they remember that so lovingly that it was so great that they actually put it in theaters this year, the 60th. Disney did put it in regular theaters for a week. And I'm hoping they extend that next year because
the experience itself. And we're going to get to something like that as well, because I think Andy will help with this. Just the whole world of musical theater is so dramatically different today.
yes.
And so we'll talk about that later. So Kristina, before we show the Von Trapp film that you brought for us, just to be clear, there were 7 in the movie, but they're actually 10 kids. And you didn't really escape through the mountains, Georg and Maria. They went to Italy, and then they wound up in London, and then they wound up in America, and eventually settling in Vermont, where they toured the world as a family of singers because everybody knew who they were, and they built this resort and lodge and hotel. But were the other 3 kids, your father, Johannes, right?
Yep.
Johannes was born in the United States, right?
Correct. He was the only one that was born in the States.
And so we just, for artistic license, we just said 7, then 9. There were really 9. And how many Von Trapps are there now?
A lot more than that. Yeah, so in real life, Maria married the Captain Georg in 1927, and they didn't flee Austria until 1938. So there were 11 years that they lived married in Austria, in Salzburg. And
So that's a big difference, because in the movie, it's right, they get married right before the Anschluss, the invasion.
Yeah.
But you're saying they lived as an Austrian family for a while.
Yeah.
And there were more children of that marriage.
Correct. Yep. So listen, the movie's already almost 3 hours, so they had to take out those 11 years to make
They do that
It's
all
actually,
the
wait,
time.
it's so much more dramatic to think that they would get married and then that they would do this incredible act of moral courage.
Yeah.
You know, you would think they'd want to settle down a little. They abbreviate the honeymoon, and the next thing you know, they're climbing mountains. Let's take a look at this film.
Hello, welcome to the Von Trapp Family Lodge and Resort in Stowe, Vermont. I'm Kristina von Trapp Frame. My grandparents, Captain Georg and Maria von Trapp, settled here in 1942 because it reminded them of Austria. They were touring and singing around the world, but they knew they wanted a farm where they could grow their own food and settle and make a life of their own again. They lived here in the summers and toured singing fall, winter, and spring. And when they were touring, they were telling people about their beautiful place in Vermont and that people should really come and visit them. So people just came and trickled in as people visit you casually at your own house. But then in 1950, we really talk about opening as a hotel, a real hotel. My grandmother, Maria von Trapp, ran the hotel from 1950 until 1968, welcoming many, many guests from around the world. My father took over in 1968 after doing his forest ecology master's at Yale. He thought he would just be here for a couple years, and he just retired in 2023. Our hospitality culture is based on the word Gemütlichkeit, which is a German word for cozy, intimate, professional, but not pretentious hospitality. Our motto has been a little of Austria, a lot of Vermont. With our 75th anniversary, we have completed a brand refresh and added the Von and Resort, so guests have a better understanding of our offerings. And also you see the bell tower behind us, which is really significant for Austria. We also realize that many people come to visit us as they know the Sound of Music story, but our property is so much more than that. So our new tagline is come for our story, leave with your own. Our hillside is so special, come see for yourself.
So Kristina, you told me off set, you confided in me that you don't sing, but I'm just quickly wondering, when the Von Trapp's cousins, and there's so many of them, do any of them sing? Do any of them when there's Christmas or holidays? Is this what we're gonna hear? Do we hear variations of hello, goodbye, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye?
Okay, so Thane, first of all, with Angela's side of the story, like her being one of the children in the movie, I've learned to explain to people that I call the movie my sci-fi parallel universe family. So then people can distinguish between the movie and the movie songs and where it was filmed and the movie names and my real family with the different songs that they sang, the different names, and the locations that they lived. But I mean, obviously they did a phenomenal job with the movie, but there is just a distinguishing. So
A huge one.
just because Angela sang doesn't mean that I sing.
I understand, right? Or for that matter, other cousins may not sing as well.
Yeah. So I do have some cousins that sing and perform professionally.
Andy, your grandfather and Richard Rodgers wrote iconic musicals that were Broadway bound and then became films. And so there was Carousel, The King and I, South Pacific, and Oklahoma, which I think was their very first and super successful beginning. So that's pretty astonishing set of collaborations.
Yeah.
But I think what most people don't know, and because you're a musical historian, maybe you can help us understand. They sort of reinvented the whole genre of what constituted a musical. I mean, the musicals, vaudeville per se, were just like the music and the songs were fluffy. They were farcical. They were not integrated into the plot. They didn't have any real social meaning. It seems like they invented or reinvented the songbook, not just contributing to the American songbook, but the whole concept of what a musical could do.
There's so many ways to attack what you've just said. The first thing I would say is first look at the audience. The audience changes over time. And during the 30s, we were a decade of laughter and forgetting. And before that, yes, these musicals really just served as coat hangers for acts and stuff. So the book musical play is what Oscar's generally given credit for inventing. Though if you look past the simplifications of it all, in some ways he was doing that or trying to do that and failing with previous shows. He clicked with Oklahoma and he clicked with Richard Rodgers. But that audience changed. And that's what changed. You know, it got smaller, it got more educated. all of a sudden people in the audience were able to listen to a plot rather than be entertained by legs and laughs.
So you're saying that in a way they reinvented something, but the times changed with them. So
Always.
so that
Whenever you can't
they
answer a question, look at the audience and see who they
yeah.
are.
Yeah, but I look at it slightly differently. It's, by the way, I think about folks the same way. If you ask our team, they'll say that's what Thane tries to do. I never talk down to the audience. I talk up to the audience. I'm saying, you come with us. Just come with us. Relax. You might not, this is a little brainier, a little wittier, but just stay with us. And I think that that's what Oscar and Richard Rodgers did, that they were literally saying, this can be much more. It can be thought-provoking. It can be socially redeeming. Yes, it could have romance in it. It can be sentimental, but it could be also filled with social consciousness. Just watch what we can do in 3 hours.
True. In fact, they had much more success in the 40s than they did in the 50s. To some extent, the competition for doing Broadway musicals got the memo. They got the memo that people wanted book musicals and stories. And all of a sudden, we were having Rodgers and Hammerstein shows that weren't being written by Rodgers and Hammerstein. We were having, My Fair Lady and Guys and Dolls. And all of a sudden, for a while there during the 50s, they were not the head of the pack.
Yeah, but they seemed to me, they seemed, though, Andy, to be slightly more, I think, more serious in the attempts to deal with social themes.
Truly.
Like Carousel, to me, sounds like it really about racism, and The King and I, in many ways,
about
race, and in some ways misogyny. These plays really had, the plot lines were incredibly important and socially conscious. And I'm not even sure the people they competed with. For instance, I want to just say that I guess it was your dad, your actual father, not your grandfather. Your dad was he Stephen Sondheim's roommate at Williams? Your dad?
No, it wasn't exactly that. They were next door neighbors in
because
Bucks County.
People do not know that your dad mentored Stephen Sondheim.
My grandfather.
It's a huge little thing that if you didn't know this before, that was the price of admission, among other things, to come on tonight. That Stephen Sondheim was tutored, mentored he's taught how to do this. And I think I read somewhere that that Sondheim basically said that your grandfather was like a playwright who wrote music, right? That
I think that's true.
That's an incredible compliment to say, yeah, they were musicals, but he was a playwright that were told through the context of films. 850 songs he wrote. And I think it's important to remember that he died before the movie came out. I think the play came out I think I'm not mistaken, it was yesterday, literally yesterday from 1959. I think it was November 16th, 1959 was the Broadway open. Just to give you a sense of context, it took, I guess, 6 years to turn it into a movie. Oh, well, Andy, we need your photos. Let's see your mementos.
Oh, these are that's Jerome Kern, with whom Oscar collaborated up until after Very Warm for May. They came to an end in 39.
It's a great photo.
And he wrote Showboat with Oscar.
Right, of course.
And Showboat basically was a high watermark or a marker for where Broadway musicals could go.
I think that Richard Rodgers was so impressed with Showboat that he said, I got to work with this guy Hammerstein.
Well, I think that Jerome Kern served as an inspiration to a wide range of composers. Richard Rodgers loved him. Everybody looks to Jerome Kern and the original Princess Theater musicals as the kind of ground zero for where these musicals all start.
But isn't it also that, I think I read this, didn't your grandfather and Richard Rodgers go to Columbia together?
They did. They were 7 years apart. In fact, Oscar was one of those guys who couldn't quite leave the college. He served on the theater committee.
Oh, right. I saw that.
So when he actually was the person responsible for putting Rodgers and Hart together.
That's right.
And they did write, the three of them, a couple of college tunes.
Right.
Very forgettable.
Yeah.
That's just Dick and Oscar. I think this is during the King and I think.
Would you say they were friends? Did they like each other?
That's the best question so far. Do they like each other? No, no, they had their own best friends. Larry was Richard's best friend, and Jerome Kern was Oscar's best friends.
Wow.
They respected each other enormously, but by the time they got together, by the time they'd gotten together, I know for a fact that Oscar had by that point worked on, in some capacity, 43 different musicals. So these guys were old guys. These weren't people like looking to start new
I
This
see.
was a
They
very
weren't guys
business
like opened up
proposition.
a business in their 20s.
Nah,
Right. These guys were pros already.
these were guys who were pros. They took success and failure in their stride. There's always another show coming up. Mary Martin. Now, Mary Martin was already also in the original Sound of Music, which at the time in '59 got bad reviews or not great reviews.
And
Really,
you
mean
know, I
reviews.
was friends with a guy who played the original Captain Von Trapp, Theo Bickel.
I love Theo Bickel.
I was friends with him, and this is another reason really why I wanted to do this, to celebrate him. Yeah. So he and Mary Martin, who we see right here, were the original Maria and Georg.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
And this is Julie Andrews during the filming, waiting for something during the Cinderella, during the filming of
I
Cinderella.
love that. I love that too. That's another thing they wrote, Cinderella,
Right.
which
Oh, in
many
fact,
people
it
were.
starts the whole kind of drama going between Mary Martin and Julie Andrews.
Yes.
The reason they did Cinderella was because CBS had done so well with Peter Pan
Right.
that
Exactly.
they wanted to do something with Julie Andrews. They wanted to do Cinderella, so they did that, and you know,
And then in
Art goes, what
1965,
can
they
I do
did
without
another
Julie
one with
Andrews?
Leslie Ann Warren.
Yes, that was the second version. Yeah,
Yeah, the second version.
that's Julie Andrews, ingenue.
Wow.
Yeah,
Almost
she was.
unrecognizable.
You couldn't pick a better person to play the roles of Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals than her.
Yeah.
She literally embodied everything that Oscar wrote for. I don't. I think they both look somewhat smitten.
Yes. Yes, they actually do.
They do. They're standing. One's standing to attention, and
Yeah.
Oscar's smiling. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
They liked her.
And this is, I was thinking about the two songs in South Pacific about agency.
This is Mary Martin, right?
Wash that man right out of my hair. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
No, this is South Pacific.
Yeah, South Pacific.
And often these shows have like a secondary male and female lead.
Yeah.
This one didn't. This one had secondary female and male choruses. You would have I want to wash that man right out of my hair coming from the women, and you would have There's Nothing Like a Dame coming
Yeah.
from,
Yep.
which was actually kind of and it was new. I don't recall that having happened before.
And this is another picture of
Just another
Oscar
picture,
and
yeah.
Richard with Julie Andrews. Great. Those are incredible. Thanks for sharing those. Angela, before we get to some of your reminiscences and mementos, you
Yeah.
were a kid in Salzburg, Austria, when the movie was being made. Can you give us like some reminiscence, some recollection? Did the six kids aside from you, did you all get along? Did you guys play together? Did you guys hang out together? Did you have tutors that taught you while you were away? What time of year was it? Is there any kind of memory before we look at some of these photos that strikes you?
Worry at all. No. That's a loaded question. First of all, there really were six of us because Charmian was an adult. She was 21, playing 16. So the main kids, we all went to school together. Kimmy was a little young, the girl who played Gretel. She was 5.
You went to some American school in Austria?
No, we had private tutoring because the film actually took almost a year to do. We rehearsed forever on the lot, and that was very smart of Robert Wise because when we went to Salzburg, we knew the choreography, we knew the songs inside and out. We had also gone and recorded the music to a live orchestra, which was a great experience. I'm so happy to say I did my own singing, which was so great. No, I'm not saying my singing was great. I'm just saying it's just nice to have done my
Yes.
in it.
So you're saying the recording of the movie album was made before the movie was shot?
Yes, because when we were on the like Do Re Mi Mountain, I can remember these huge speakers. I mean, this was before you had drones, before you had CGI, before you had little miniature sound, iPods, earpods. I mean, this is 60 years ago.
Well, also, can I just say, let me just quickly interrupt you. I think what you're saying about drones is my understanding is that opening establishment shot was done on a helicopter.
That's
Right, which was, think about this, is 60 years ago, more than 60 years ago,
yes.
that they come in on Julie Andrews as Maria, who's singing on the mountain, right? And it's an incredible look at Andy.
He's twirling for you. Yes, and the cameraman hanging out of the door of the helicopter. The reason I remember is when we were escaping over the mountain, that was also a helicopter shot. And very dramatic. It was rough and ready. It really was.
Angela, I just watched that last scene a little bit recently, and I don't even remember because clearly it's a helicopter because the wind is whipping the grass and your coats are flying and everything's blowing around. Yeah.
No, it was yes, it was an experience for sure. And that's the top of a mountain that is actually in 3 separate countries. I remember thinking, oh, that's so weird. I'm here, and then I'm also in Austria, and now I'm in Germany. I don't know where it is, but it's it was a dramatic way to end the movie, I think, as we escaped. I have so many memories of the movie itself. We became very good friends, all of us, and we are to this day, we call ourselves the non-traps.
The non-traps.
Our communication a Psalm 7 thread where we're always talking and catching up. And this year has been really special because it was the 60th. Every year I lead a tour with craft tours to take people to the locations. And I did that in April, and then I went back again and did it a second time this year. And the rest of the cast was there also.
Wow.
The cool thing about Austria and Salzburg, everything looks the same. So even though 60 years has gone by, those people can actually do the routine on those do-re-mi steps and, run around that Pegasus fountain. It's not, gated off.
So you're saying there's reenactments.
Yes.
Everyone can go and actually play the role of Brigitte if they want, right?
And every other role, I believe.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some of those mementos.
Oh, wow.
This was the premiere. Somebody's idea, I think it was Robert Wise's, that we wear our party dresses to the premiere, which was a great idea, I think. And it was a very exciting night.
Just to be clear, that is Brigitte in the very middle. That's Angela, right?
That is me. Yeah, right there with a little necklace on. We were all very excited. It was a very exciting night. I remember we had not seen the movie all the way through. We had seen snippets here and there, but that was a cool night.
Wow, that's a great photo.
And we arrived.
Angela, can I ask you a question, Angela? Did you ever meet Oscar or?
Well, I was trying to remember that, and I'm thinking I probably did when we made the recording. I mean, wouldn't it have been likely that he would have been there? But
well, he died in 60, so it wouldn't have been based upon the show,
I don't know whether he was there. I just remember the full orchestra and all standing at mics and singing and doing the songs. And my mom probably would remember, but I'll have to wait to ask her. It's Julie Andrews. This is the market scene. That's my do-re-mi dress, and that's in Salzburg, and it looks exactly like that still.
This is when she's juggling, and then one of the kids drops a tomato.
Exactly. When you think of that Do Re Mi sequence, which was divided like a music video, it was
Yeah, exactly.
Robert Wise was an editor before he was a director. And
Angela, did you just invent that? That's brilliant. I've never heard that before.
yeah, he actually made the first music video. We were in a different location for every verse, and he showed all of Salzburg. It's really brilliant when you think about it.
It is a music video. It absolutely is.
And there's the steps.
Yep.
There's me. I'm on the left there.
Yep. There you go.
Down. My note was me. That's the third step. And the beautiful mountains.
Do we know that's Austria and not Germany and not, remember you were just saying, we know that's Austria.
It could be the Unchesberg. I'm not really sure where this was when we were escaping. So wherever that part is.
I see. You mean the second helicopter.
Yeah, exactly. Those are our escape outfits.
Oh.
Yep.
Didn't get us all in the shot there. You know, we were very fortunate that my parents really loved photography, especially my dad. But we have all these pictures that we got together and we made this Sound of Music family scrapbook, which has all of our memorabilia in it. And so many of these vintage photographs. Debbie's mother also shot pictures. And Nikki had some video that he had done. So, you know, it was great to be able to put all of that together. And, you know, we had our tickets when we flew to Austria. Those were the days, you know, you wore gloves.
Yeah. You had a ticket.
Right. Oh, and this is us just there a month ago. We were there at Helbrunn, and they're going to be opening a museum, a Sound of Music museum. There's also a Von Trapp family park.
Wait, so just to be clear, that's 5 of the 7 of the original cast.
We have 2 of them have passed on, sadly. Liesel, who was Charmian Carr, and Heather Menzies, who was my best friend. I was so thrilled to meet her, and we clicked because we both loved the Beatles, and we drove everybody crazy with our Beatles songs and our Beatle club while we were filming the movie. She was a great friend. And it was just like, you know, being in this city and having your best friend with you. And it was a joyous thing, a joyous movie to film. It really was.
So this is jewelry that you make among your other artistic pursuits that is inspired by the movie, Well,
it is Michael Michaud who actually makes this amazing botanical jewelry. I have always been a fan of his jewelry, and I actually called him up and I said, would you like to make an Edelweiss for the 60th anniversary? And he was absolutely thrilled. He's a lovely guy. And so we collaborated.
And to be clear, that's the flower Edelweiss.
It is. And
that is what it means. Wow, that's great.
A wonderful symbol.
Yeah, it's a great way. Those are great photos. Thank you for that. So 1965, as Angela reminded us, the British invasion, the Beatles. I love that anecdote that she's driving everybody crazy with her fandom of the Beatles. But it's also the Cold War in 1965. And there must have been a sense that the fascism had been defeated. We'd never see it again. In fact, I think that that's one of the charms of the movie, that we're looking at something as its history that won't even come back. And I'm wondering whether that you had that sense of it at the time. I'm curious about, was there a sense of, well, we can make this movie because the Nazis aren't here anymore. And if we have enemies, they're really communists. I'm wondering because, you know, this takes place in the heart of the Cold War. And I'm wondering whether, first of all, are you surprised, here we are 60 years later, that people are still talking about Nazis?
Yeah.
I know.
Who wants that one?
I do know that when we made
Who wants that one?
the Salzburg was very sensitive about the Nazis walking through the city. It was very raw and very new to them. I mean, what had it been, 20 years? That was tough for them. And Robert Wise apparently said, then I will use actual footage if you do not let me have them walk through the city town there. And
Wow.
they agreed as long as they didn't carry any rifles or guns or whatever it was they carried.
Damn.
You know,
So-
I knew a little bit. We had a teacher that took us to the Eagle's Nest. We had to do reports on those things. But, you know, I was 10 and, you know, didn't really have a real hold on exactly what had taken place there.
Well, you also have to remember, Angela, the word the Holocaust doesn't even appear until the late 1970s.
True.
People actually, we are so early in 1965 that the film, as you know, it takes place of the Anschluss. So we don't really get a sense of who they are. All we know is that Georg von Trapp doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be occupied. We have no idea what they're about. We don't even know what this is the first country that they occupy. If you watch the movie, you get the sense that not for the von Trapps, everyone else was game to become part of the Third Reich.
The right thing. They, you know, Austrians initially waved Hitler in and welcomed him.
Yes.
They thought he was going to be, you know, good for the country. And, you know, I think they're still reconciling that. But yeah, they waved him in. And, you know, people have asked me, you know, why my grandfather Georg was, you know, why they were so adamant about standing up to Hitler. And I think it was just on principles. You know, they were Catholic, they weren't Jewish, but they just could see what was happening. And because he had been so highly decorated, they thought that they could stay and get a movement behind them to help overthrow or help push Hitler out. And then they just realized it was bigger than they were.
Well, I think it's important to point out, as you're quite right, not only was the Austrians welcoming Hitler, there was no resistance movement.
Yeah.
You know, so there was a resistance in France, there was a resistance in Poland, there was a Czech resistance, not so much, but there was something. The Austrians said, come in. And I think that makes the Von Trapp story, to me, so much more interesting. And I wonder whether your grandfather, did he feel heroic? Did he feel that, you know, I can't believe what I did. I could have been an admiral in the German Navy. They were essentially sending me a telegram saying, you're going to be the man. So come join us tomorrow. And instead I'm climbing mountains with my children to get the hell out of Austria.
Did they not ask the Von Trapps to sing at Hitler's birthday party and Maria refused?
Yeah, Angela, good point. So,
oh boy, can we talk about that?
so the Von Trapps said no to Hitler 4 times. 2 of which you see in the movie. They wanted, the Nazis wanted him to hang a flag, the swastika flag, and they wanted Georg to be the captain of a submarine. What you don't see in the movie is that the oldest boy had already finished medical school and had been offered a job running a hospital in Vienna, but only because a Jewish man had been removed from that job. So Rupert said, no, thank you. And then the 4th and final thing, which you touched on, Angela, was they wanted, the Nazis wanted Hitler to sing, wanted the Von Trapp family singers to sing for Hitler's birthday over the radio. And that would have shown all the public that they were pro-Hitler.
Wow.
So, and they said no. And they were like, wow, like how much more can we get away with before we just disappear? And so they fled, they took a train to Italy, literally with their little rucksacks, pretending they were going hiking for the day.
So you're saying that there's more reasons for them to have been, for Georg to worry, because it wasn't just ripping up a flag. They had done everything possible to reject the occupation. And that's what's so touching, I think, about that final scene when Georg is singing and he chokes up when he sings Edelweiss. And that's when Maria joins him on stage with the children. It's actually very touching, as if he can't finish the song. And the wife, you know, who's actually the better singer, comes on stage to say, let me help you finish because this is too emotional for you. And why the audience picks up, it's the only sign of resistance in the movie, that when Georg waves them on and says, come on, join me, that they all sing Edelweiss about the national flower. It's very touching because in all other respects, the Austrians were with the Nazis in the Third Reich. One other thing that I want to ask about, and all of you about this, that it is a fact he was a submarine commander, but it is interesting that when people think of Austria, they think of culture and paintings and novels and playwrights and pastries. Everyone talks about pastries. So I thought, well, what if the book writers had made them owners of a patisserie, but a military man who uses a whistle to signal his kids is the one that rejects the authoritarianism of the Third Reich? I think that's a deep thought that isn't mentioned much, that yes, it's true that Maria humanizes him again with music, and we don't know how true that all was. Maybe you can help us. But I think that that's an important distinction, that it comes from the military ethos itself, that this family ultimately rejects what Hitler was doing.
I actually never really thought of it that way, but you're absolutely correct, because in the military, you're just taught to follow orders. So I haven't thought of it that way, but you're right. Well, first of all, I do want to clear something up. He was warm. He was more warm and kind and generous than you see in the movie. And Maria was a little more on the stern,
Hard side.
black and white, right and wrong side.
Right.
So are you saying that she too felt strongly? In the movie, it's really his idea, but you're saying it may have been both of their idea to flee?
I think it was both their ideas, and it was really important to them that all the kids agreed on it as well. Because remember, the kids were older. So they all made the decision as a family, and that was really important to them to make that decision as a family. And she was pregnant with my father when they came over by boat, and he was born January 39.
Wow. There's that great moment in the movie when he is doing the whistle and she's completely befuddled by it. And at one point he gives her own whistle sound, and she uses the word, that would be humiliating. And I thought, what a great line. What a nice piece of dialogue. As an adult, she's saying, and that's why I want to get back to what Angela said about the 1960s and what about Andy also said about that era of like what people were ready for at the time. Because I do think it was a decade of nonconformity, right? It was a decade of anti-authoritarian thinking. It was about personal autonomy and liberation, where you could go find your dream. I mean, I think that the musical really speaks to the zeitgeist of where Americans were in the 1960s. We're not yet at Woodstock. We're not yet really at the Vietnam War protests, even though there is some activity in Vietnam. It's almost like your grandfather, Andy, foreshadowed the kind of feistiness, a kind of resistance that you see in the movie.
He was a very politically charged individual. I was mentioning to you earlier that I did a Freedom of Information Request Act on his FBI file, and it came to 99 pages of him being spied on by J. Edgar Hoover. So,
wow.
Yeah, he was in the vanguard of racial equality and some gender equality, though it wasn't good for that time.
So you're saying he could have theoretically been in the Hollywood 10 or something like that?
He supported the Hollywood 10 and had them to dinner.
Just for people who may not remember this, the Hollywood 10 were the Hollywood screenwriters in Hollywood that were blacklisted, the most famous of which is Dalton Trumbo.
As played by Bryan Cranston.
Recently by Bryan Cranston. But the Hollywood 10 were the 10 people who refused to cooperate with the government. They refused to renounce what socialist or communist feelings they had.
They just refused to testify because they said that the request was unconstitutional, which it was. I'd love to just share the one little anecdote. When the Beatles landed on the tarmac at Idlewild Airport, the reporters climbed up the gangplank and said, and one reporter got into, I believe it was Paul McCartney's ear and said, "So you boys coming to America, you want to be the next Elvis Presley?" To which Paul McCartney replied, "No, we want to be the next Rodgers and Hammerstein."
Oh, I love that.
Oh.
Wild.
Oh, that is a great anecdote. And that was McCartney.
Yeah. And
That's great.
you got to understand that the business changed. Starting about the 1960s, the inflationary aspects of putting on a show were such that it was getting harder and harder to put on shows. People often ask me, why don't they write them like they used to? And the answer is because why would a musician spend 2 years on a show when they could spend 6 months on an album and make more money that way? So the
And
economics
the
shifted
show
out.
may actually close in a month.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
it's like why would a musician do that? Why if Richard Rodgers were born in 1950, he probably would never have made a musical because it wouldn't have been a world that was welcoming to
Well, I
music.
want to ask you and Angela something more about that before we leave, but I want to talk about two very important differences between the Broadway show and the movie. And maybe Kristina can weigh in as well, because there's two scenes that are really extraordinary that are not in the movie and that are in a Broadway show. For instance, in the Broadway show, the Baroness and Max sing a song, No Way to Stop It. And the song is really about how, well, what do you want us to do? We're not going to be able to fight the Nazis. There's no way to stop it. Maybe it's good to be involved in appeasement or collaboration or compromise, but we're not going to, who do you think we are? Georg von Trapp, we're not insane. We're not going to try to fight the Nazis. Give us a break. And at the end of the song, it's that breaks up the relationship where the Baroness and Georg realize they can't be together. And it's her decision, as if she's saying, I don't want to be with a guy who doesn't want to go along with the Nazis. Now that scene
Right.
doesn't take place in the movie. And the song is not in a movie. And the opposite happens where he's trying to tell her, I don't think I'm in love with you. And then she stops him and says, no, actually, I'm not in love with you. And I'm dumping you. You're not dumping me. I'm dumping you. I'll find someone else who wants to spend my money.
And I know Eleanor Parker didn't sing, and I don't know why they made that choice. It was obviously a decision to make that part of the story lighter, I think.
I
I
see.
think it's possibly true. I also think they might have thought that it wasn't such a great song.
Oh,
Right. And
I have a feeling that it runs its buoyancy kind of runs against
what it's saying.
the message.
wow.
It was an awkward song in an otherwise nice.
You're absolutely right, Andy.
But he
It
did
doesn't have the gravity of what is being said. It's
was too-
more like funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it's not funny. That's not funny.
But I have confidence it was written for the movie, and so was Something Good. That's not in the play,
Oh,
not
wow.
the original play.
So then there's another scene that is, to me, even more interesting, which is Rolf, the character of Rolf, who I like to call the Hitler Youth with hormones. On the one hand, he's the Hitler Youth, but he has a thing for the oldest girl.
Hitler teen.
Yeah, he's a teen. He's got the hots for the oldest girl, but he's Hitler Youth. There's no question about who he is. So in the movie, when he spots them, there's this great dramatic moment where Georg walks to him and he's unafraid, said, give me the gun. And he says something, you don't belong to them. And Georg takes the gun away. And then Rolf says, I found them, as if to dispute the claim, to say, no, I do belong to them. That I am more seduced by the Nazi ideology than I'm seduced about how hot your daughter is.
I have often said, why doesn't Georg just be quiet? Why does he have to put the knife in and turn it and say,
You're saying, why doesn't he just run away with the kids?
no, he says, you'll never be one of them. And I think it just pisses him off. And that's why he says,
You're saying, oh, I see. You're saying the dialogue, you'll never be one of them, only pisses him off.
yeah, because
Right, often.
he goes, come on, you're not going to do that. And then he says, you'll never be one of them. And that's,
Anybody's ever had a teenage boy knows the best way to get him to do something is to tell him he can't do it.
exactly. And
So
it's much more dramatic because then they're, running around with the lights and it's kind of frightening. And are they going to get away? And we all piled into that Volkswagen, by the way. It was like a being in a phone booth.
Funny.
I still don't know how we did it because there were 9 of us. It was crazy. It was squished. I remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Those are choices that, that I don't think Julie had much say in stuff like that. She was right off of Mary Poppins. I don't think she knew her power at that point because she hadn't won her Academy Award. Robert Wise apparently saw 5 minutes of Mary Poppins and said, "That's who I want." I mean,
You mean to him, she wasn't even that famous yet.
For a matter of fact, none of us knew who she was except Nicky Hammond, who has said the story. He saw her in My Fair Lady. And so
wow.
he'd seen her perform and knew her voice. And he was a lot older too.
And just so everyone knows, Mary Poppins is 1964,
right?
And The Sound of Music is 1965. So if you think about the cultural impact of those two musicals, that's an incredible 2 years.
Absolutely. And she had her daughter. I was just thinking about this the other day. Emma was her daughter, and she had just given birth to Emma. And it's amazing that little waist that she has in that dirndl.
Yeah.
I mean, Emma was with her the entire shoot there. So I think, I don't think she knew at that point how powerful she was. I think as far as the songs and what she could do with the songs, I think she was totally in control of that because she had done that all her life since she was a child and she had been on Broadway. But acting wise, I don't think she was real secure in the fact that she was so outstanding.
What about the songs themselves? Andy, you probably have some thoughts about them.
About the songs?
Yeah, the songs. I mean, they're so iconic. There were more hits out of Sound of Music than even Oklahoma or the other collaborations. Rogers.
It was actually about the same, actually, or maybe I have that wrong.
It's about the same. Do you have favorites among them?
Well, I choke up easily. I choke up easily. So like Climb Every Mountain. I don't think I'm gonna get all teary. I try not to. And then like
powerful.
All the love you can give every day of your life for as long as I live, I'm done. I'm in tears at that point.
Because your grandfather wrote that.
Yeah.
He knew how to get them, boy. Some of those lyrics are great.
A bell is no bell till you ring it. Good Lord. That's
right. Well, how do you come up with that kind of a lyric? It's also what's great about that is that the head nun sings that and as well. And I think that's a very powerful statement because remember, she lived in a nunnery. She was going to be a nun. Oh. That's pretty authoritarian in a way. There's a lot of rules in a nunnery, and it's really the head nun who's basically saying, there's something wrong with you. There's something about Maria, and you really don't belong here, and you should find your dream somewhere else. Find it. And I think that is an especially powerful message that was put in the voice, not just of Julie Andrews, but in the head nun, as if she says, no, all of us should be searching for self-actualization. Whatever those dreams, let's go find it. So what about Kristina?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think we always forget about the nuns' music because none of us can sing it. But the nuns' music and those opening scenes, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
It takes you from like old world to, and then the music progresses and gets a little more current. But the nuns' music is fabulous. Yeah.
And it's very Shakespearean in a way, right? Because it's set up where you don't really meet the stars yet. You don't really meet the people. You don't meet the Von Trapps yet. The nuns are like the Greek chorus, right? They're giving you a little commentary, a little about what's going on. And you're going to find out the woman that was running around on the mountain that we took that big shot with the helicopter, it must be her. We're probably talking about her. She's a little nutty. But it introduces you to something that's done by way of the faith, which I think is even more interesting since in a way she flees the faith and the faith is fine with that.
It's an I want song, but it's not being sung by the I.
Ah.
You know what I mean? Every show starts with an I want song. So that we know where it's going.
Yeah.
But this time the ladies are singing about her. They're giving us character development Then she comes out and sings an entirely different song, which kind of crosses against that.
Yeah, good point. You know,
So
that is a
it's a new
plot
opening.
conceit that's unusual, right? I mean, that you
Yes,
would
I think
think
so.
that they would want to reinforce what the nuns just sang.
Right away.
Right. Wow. Great point,
She
Andy.
does run, and she's up at the hill and she hears the bells and she runs and gets her habit. You know, she starts to take off and then she goes, oh, I've forgotten my habit. And she goes and gets it. And I think in that moment you sit there and go, oh, she's kind of a rebel. She's not wearing her habit.
Girl.
You know, there's little nuances. I'll tell you, Chris Plummer has a lot of them in the movie. Every time I watch it, I try to go every year to the Hollywood Bowl and watch the sing-along. It's brilliant. And my family loves it. We all fly out there to watch it. And
how often do you do that? You do it every
every
year?
year. It's in September. And
Please tell
sold
me,
out.
please tell me
Steph,
that they
music
introduce
royalty.
you.
That they what? They introduce it?
Please tell me that they say Angela
They
Cartwright is in.
do. We go backstage. We just come out and we say hi.
Oh, I love that.
It's 17,000 people. And I'll tell you, when they sing Edelweiss, it's not lighters anymore. It's your iPhone. They light up the iPhone, and
Oh, wow.
it's a spiritual moment because everybody in that place in the Hollywood Bowl is in the same space.
And they get the feel of the emotional experience of the Austrians that day, who, even though they're accepting the occupation, the Anschluss, they know in their heart that Georg is right. They know. That's why he can get them to sing along.
Yeah.
And it's that very touching moment where you see the Nazis looking around going, why is everyone singing? You should be singing Nazi songs. What is this Edelweiss thing? And it's interesting that one moment of resistance where everyone is sort of joined together in song. And now you're telling me we do this with 20,000 people in the Hollywood Bowl. It's pretty extraordinary.
It's very.
Andy, you were going to say something.
I have an anecdote. I do sometimes I go out on nationally and I'll do like a MC a Rodgers and Hammerstein type of show. And we get to the end, it's semi-chronological. So we're in the Sound of Music zone at this point. And we put on or we sing Edelweiss. And we'll do the first chorus of Edelweiss. And then we just point to the audience. And 1,600 people will sing it back to us.
Wow.
And we'll just stand there watching them sing to us.
It's very emotional. The melody is just so beautiful. It's just everything about it.
Robert Wise thought that was the Austrian song of Austria, and it wasn't.
Is that right?
And they brought everybody in off the street. Those are real Austrians. They would just say, come on in and watch this performance. I remember this so well. It was at the Lands Theater and it was open air and it's in the side of the mountain. And, you know, you had the arches with all the Nazis in it. But we were excited because we got to stay up all night. But we were there and they had to teach that song to the audience.
Wow.
Because they didn't know Edelweiss.
Wow, that is a great anecdote.
I know,
wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It's great. All right, speaking of Edelweiss, let me take one question from the audience and then we'll take a few closing announcements and we'll say goodnight to the three of you. This was just awesome. You know, we've been doing folks events for 20 years. We've done hundreds of these things. I swear to you, this is one of the best. I know our managing director and producer and board are thrilled with this. So thank you so much. This was just an awesome, for the ages, timeless. Thank you. So here's this question that is an Edelweiss question. This is a good question. Let's see. This is a question about music and craft. Edelweiss was the last song Oscar Hammerstein ever wrote. Do you see it as a farewell message artistically or personally? And I think the person also seemed to recognize, Angela, that you used it as an inspiration for the jewelry pieces, that Edelweiss means one thing, you know, to everyone around the world. It means one thing. It means that song. Do you think, Oscar, your grandfather wasn't ill at the time that he wrote that?
No, not really. Not really. There might have been some cancer, but I don't think that it was affecting him at that point yet.
It does say, bless my homeland forever. I mean,
Yeah.
that is a very powerful message at the end. It's all, to me, the flower is about resilience. It's a beautiful flower. It grows where it's very cold. And there's a whole folk thought of the boy goes up and he pulls the Edelweiss flower and gives it to his sweetheart. And it means that he will go to the ends of the earth for her.
Wow.
Lovely little love story that goes with Edelweiss. It's very pure and noble, and I just love it. And I wear it all the time.
Yeah, the mountaineering people in Austria, a lot of times at the top of the mountain, there might be a cross just to recognize that it's the top of the mountain, and there'll be an Edelweiss stamped into it. So it's
Oh.
also used by the mountaineering people.
Is that, you mean, Christina, in Stowe?
Nope, sorry, in Austria.
Because I'm saying, because it would be really cool if they did it in Stowe.
We may have to start a new tradition.
Yeah, I was going to say, Christina would love that we captured that same idea here. But I wonder whether, and I'll leave with that thought is that, Broadway musicals simply don't do what The Sound of Music does anymore. Yes, there was Les Mis, but those are darker. Phantom of the Opera doesn't have the same kind of message at the end.
So look, Oscar, until he worked with Richard Rodgers, did 3 shows a year for his entire life. If it didn't work, the next one. If it didn't work, next one. And you learned your craft because you did 3 shows a year. You didn't just come up with an idea and then 7 years and $25 million.
Yeah, but the cost, as you described it, Andy, is tragic because it does seem like an art form has been lost because we simply can't afford to mount productions like that.
Maybe coming back because there's all these indie movies and people are making their own movies now.
I hope you're right.
It's just a big mess right now, I think. I hope Disney recognizes people love The Sound of Music, and I hope that they play it every year. They have played, it wasn't Disney that owned it. They just bought it last year.
That's right. So they didn't own it originally.
I am just really hoping that they've got some sharp people that kind of see what's happening, because people want to go and feel good and listen to good music and enjoy what they
want that Hollywood Bowl experience that you see every year. All right, before we say goodnight, we have a few closing announcements. This is how you can stay in touch with us. Stay on our email list. Use the QR code. Keep up with our programming, registering through our email list. Follow our social media handles. You will see that we will use clips from tonight forever. There'll be clips of this forever, and we'll have them on all of our various social media platforms, including YouTube. And yes, of course, we're your favorite nonprofit. Please donate. Our programs are made possible through your generous support. We have a lot of upcoming events. This one I'm very excited about. As you know, Robert Redford recently died, and in honor of him, we have an event we're calling An Extraordinary Legacy, honoring Robert Redford and the movie Ordinary People. And the 2 special guests we have are Judd Hirsch and Timothy Hutton, who co-starred in Ordinary People. You may remember in 1980, Robert Redford, who at the time was just a Hollywood heartthrob, who knew he could direct. This was his first directed movie. He does not appear in the movie, and the film wins the Academy Award. He wins the Academy Award for Best Director. And Timothy Hutton actually won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. And Judd Hirsch was nominated along with him. So we have 2 of those stars from those films. That's going to be with our partners, the 92nd Street Y here in New York. It'll be live, and it'll also be virtual as well. We're very excited about that. Please join us for that. If you sign up for other events, you'll see more of our upcoming events. So stay tuned for them. This QR code gives you an update as to all of our events coming up. But let's talk about this event. This was a very special one. And I want to thank you, Andy and Angela and Christina. We use this word a lot lately, and I want to leave us with this thought. You hear the words moral courage nowadays. You hear it a lot. People use it very casually. Either people have it or they don't have it or wish they did have it. Whatever happened to moral courage? And when someone stands up for something, they go, wow, you have really moral courage. this movie's really about that. It's got a lot of, there's family and love and music, but at the heart of the story, what the music and the lyrics tell is a story of defiance. People that say no when everyone else is saying yes. People are standing up to bullies, stand up to authoritarianism. Everyone else is going along because it's just easier. And there's always someone who says, no, not okay with me. And I think that, we have this, 2,000 acres of a lodge in Stowe. I think I have it right, over 2,000 acres, that in many ways, yes, it's a ski resort. Yes, you can work out when you're there. But in many ways, it's an American monument to a family that said no to Hitler in one of the countries where everyone said yes. And one of the reasons I think, things like The Sound of Music or To Kill a Mockingbird, what are the things that stick in our minds? Those characters that said, I know everyone told me to do something else, but I'm not. I'm going to stand apart and do the right thing. And I think that all three of you spoke to that legacy and to that moral message really well. So I want to thank Andy Hammerstein and Angela Cartwright and Kristina von Trapp. My name is Thane Rosenbaum. Good night from FOLCS. See you until next time. Good night.
Thanks so much for having us.
Oh.